Hey everybody, welcome to Sweet Lip. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Wives of Frederick Douglass. That's right, the wives, plural, because Frederick Douglass was indeed married twice. His first wife was named Anna Murray Douglass, and she lived from 1813 to 1882. His second wife, Helen Pitts Douglass, lived from 1838 to 1908. So please subscribe, ring that bell, and you will be notified of further episodes. So let's dig in. Now, I recently had the pleasure of visiting Frederick Douglass's DC estate, Cedar Hill, and it's named for all the beautiful cedar trees on the property. And the property itself overlooks the city of DC. Anna Murray Douglass lived from 1813 to 1882. She and Douglass were married in 1838 and were married for 44 years up until the time of her death. Anna Murray was the mother of Frederick Douglass's children. He did have 5 children, only 4 of which survived through childhood. One of his youngest child, Annie, passed away at the age of 10. Now his daughter, Rosetta Sprague Douglass, wrote a beautiful piece about her mom in the year 1900, which was about 18 years after Anna Murray had died. But it's called My Mother as I Recall Her. And it was published in 1900, and I will put a link to the manuscript, which can be found on the Library of Congress's website. Anna was born free in Maryland. Both of her parents had been slaves. She knew what freedom was, and she also knew what slavery was, in that it was so close to home for her. And this is interesting in she and Frederick Douglass's union, in that, of course, Frederick Douglass was also once a slave. When Anna Murray was 17 years old, she decided that it was time for her to leave her parents' house and strike out on her own. So at 17, she packed up and moved to Baltimore and began working in a household as a domestic worker. She worked in the household for a couple of years and then got a job in a French household, working for a French family, which she enjoyed. Now, back then, you had circles of people. So in Baltimore, you had your free blacks, and then you had your blacks who were slaves. Frederick Douglass, of course, was a slave during his time in Baltimore. He was leased to a Baltimore ship hawker at the time that he met Anna Murray Douglass. She, of course, is a free woman. Now, and at the time, you know, slaves and freemen did not particularly mix, but if they did, it was okay. The freemen did not turn away slaves because they were slaves. They would embrace them. So Anna Murray's circle probably embraced Frederick Douglass, and you know, he was a very attractive young man. She probably saw him and was smitten with him. We don't know the circumstances under which they met. We do know that she was free and he was still a slave, but sparks flew between them, and she decided to help him escape to Massachusetts. So the way that she helped him escape was she made a sailor's outfit for him, because that is how he escaped. He disguised himself as a sailor. She gave him money to pay for his expenses throughout his escape. She was a good money manager, and she had saved up all this money from working in these households, and because she lived in the house with the people, she didn't have rent and all that type of stuff, so she was able to save her money, and she helped him escape to slavery. And so after he was safely in Massachusetts. She packed up her things once again, and this time went to Massachusetts to be with Frederick Douglass. Once she got there, they were married, and they had a little house. I think it was a 2-room house, and they worked to make it into a home. She had brought with her, once she met him in Massachusetts, she had bought things to go in the house. She brought a feather bed and china and utensils and lots of her clothing to help start their life together in Massachusetts. Now, while in Massachusetts, they did have 4 children. Well, their children were very young, the oldest being 6. Frederick Douglass had written and published his very controversial autobiography, The Narrative of Frederick Douglass. Now, this book was very controversial at the time because this was a former slave, an escaped slave, writing about his experiences, and it was a well-written book, well-received among the abolition community. Slaveholders, of course, did not like this, and they were not pleased. And Frederick Douglass, at this time, he feared for his life, and the people who loved him and who his associates also feared for his life, and they convinced him to leave the country and go off to Europe. Now, while he was in Europe, he had did what is called a speaking tour. He went around and did lots of speeches and things, and pretty much left Anna and the children at home in Massachusetts. Now, he didn't just leave them. He did ensure that they were going to be safe and they were going to be protected while he was gone. He was gone for about 2 years, leaving Anna behind to care for the children alone. Now, she did have a strong support system around her of anti-slavery people who kept her encouraged even in times when she wasn't sure if her husband would ever come home. And during his absence, she kept very busy with the family, of course, and she stayed active in the anti-slavery circles of Massachusetts. The ladies in her anti-slavery circle would help her take care of the children and help her take care of the house to ensure that Anna could be involved in their meetings and active in their movement. Anna also decided to help out the family financially while Frederick Douglass was gone. She began to make shoes for people. So she got income making shoes from her home, and Douglass would send money when he could. So once he got home, he was very impressed to find that there were no outstanding debts, there were no bills waiting for him, that Anna had pretty much held down the fort. Now, soon after Frederick Douglass returned to Massachusetts, he decided to move the family to Rochester, New York in 1847. Now, their time in Rochester proved to be a challenge for Anna. Anna didn't feel the same sense of camaraderie that she felt while living in Massachusetts. There was a lot of prejudice in Rochester, and Anna didn't trust many people there. And during their time in Rochester, 2 white European women lived in the house with them.